Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Bad Drinks TV. I'm your host, H, and basically what we're going through is the 6 essential cocktails according to Embury's Fine Art of Mixing Drinks, published in 1948. So, little thing about the author, again, quickly. Embury was a lawyer, obviously a drinker. And when he published this book, obviously he sort of offended a few bartenders, because bartenders being the prissy that we are, well, they were like, why is the fucking lawyer making a book about drinking, and cocktails? That's our world. Well, the thing is, in my career that's spanning almost 30 years, some of the best drinkers I know and some of my most loyal customers and guests I've had are lawyers. It sort of makes a bit of sense. And he's also quite diplomatic as well when he's going through creating these drinks. But he has 6 essential cocktails. Now, according to him, the 6 essential cocktails are a Daiquiri, a Manhattan, an Old Fashioned, a Sidecar, a Martini, and the Jack Rose. Now, when I first went through this, it was about 20 years ago, trying to put this together, those drinks, all of them sort of made sense, logical sense. A lot of them I knew. But the Jack Rose, that f***ing threw me for a loop. Like, seriously, what the f***? And of course, when I made it, back then as well, I was using that shitty fucking glow-in-the-dark grenadine. I mean, oh my God. It's the kind of stuff that would survive World War III. And I was just using apple brandy, not applejack, because it wasn't that available, especially in the United Kingdom. I know in the US probably, but in the UK, still wasn't that big. And also, just doing lemon and lime juice. Now, the drink slightly evolved though. Originally in 1908, the drink, the applejack, was orange juice, sugar, raspberry, lemon, lime, apple brandy, soda. And then suddenly, 6 years later, I don't know how the f*** it happened, but literally 6 years later, it changed to grenadine, lime juice, and applejack. And that's the recipe that's in Embury's Fine Art of Mixing Drinks. Okay, so now we're going to go on to ingredients and equipment to make a really good Jack Rose cocktail. Now, rather important, glassware is a garnish. It's important. If you go onto my Pinterest site, you will see that I keep adding to a glassware collection. Now, you can either go on to Etsy, which is where I actually found these. These are Fistoria's 1950s and 1960s. But there's contemporary ones, there's some modern ones, there's some unique ones, there's some high-end ones. But try and get it so as you get at least a 6-ounce glass, because this is a shaken drink. But make it a bit of effort. But I have a very simple rule, okay, when it comes to glassware. And if you're going to be doing this at home, and I even actually do it even a bit at work, it's a bit cheeky. I call it the Jesus effect. It's basically based on this guy called Jesus. You hear about him in the Bible. And he does this, he's great at what he does. And he does this thing about turning water into wine. Really, what it is that he started with, the party started with some really nice wine, and really Jesus just poured water into an amphora, swirled it around, and because the people were so drunk, they didn't notice that they were just really drinking sort of wine-flavored water. Well, the principle sort of applies with your glassware. Now, I have some really nice glassware, like this, obviously, and so depending on the clientele and how my customers are going, I start them out with some really nice glassware. But if there are some glass customers who are just a little bit too drunk, and you will always have somebody in your party at your home who's going to be getting wasted, and you don't really want them to end up smashing this. So get a slightly cheaper one that's like maybe 10, 15 bucks, otherwise known as the sippy cup or the drunk person cup, and switch it over. So that's what I call it, the Jesus effect. He was the master at it. And so that's what I do. I have 2 types of glassware. I have my really lovely, high-end, beautiful antique glassware, and then I have what's called my sippy cup one. And it's all about, judging what your clients are like, okay, or your guests in your home. So have 2 types, okay? So always remember the Jesus effect. Now, next up, grenadine. Please, homemade, right? Lemons, limes, Again, the jigger, really important. It's a measure, okay? Right, please use this. A peeler, juicer, little paring knife, obviously, to cut them. A bar spoon if you need to, essential tool. And of course some shaker tins. Now you can go quite elaborate. I did. These are handmade out of Mexico. They are rather expensive and very heavy, and you have to hand wash these, okay? But if not, you can also use just these ones as well. Now, the reason why I use metal and tin on tin is because with glass, I'm quite rough, so I do tend to break the glass, and I don't want to have glass going in my well or all over my bar. These things will last a long time. They do, years before they eventually get bent out of shape, and they don't break. So it's a lot safer, and they're a little easier to use and easier to basically crack open, okay? Notes on ingredients. This is actually really important, and I cannot stress this enough, especially when it comes to grenadine. Now, most people will see the grenadine that you see in shops. To me, if it glows in the dark, don't use it. Please, for the love of God, stay the away from it. It's radioactive. I mean, no. Now, there is some boutique style of grenadine that you'll find in some cocktail shops. It's not bad, and if I'm really in a rush and I haven't made any of my own grenadine, then yes, I might use it. But personally, make your own. There are plenty of recipes out there. I have one on TikTok. You may not like that one, but there are others online. Follow the recipes. It's really easy to make, but there are some a little bit more interesting recipes out there. Use them, experiment. Find one that you like, find one you're happy to make. But please, homemade grenadine is really important and very essential, and it's really is a useful ingredient to always have at home. Okay, so this is my one. You go online, go onto TikTok, and you see how I make it. So mine's got a little bit of PX sherry in it, some molten salt, sugar, and of course pure pomegranate juice. So please use and make your own grenadine. It changes the flavor of your drink to no end. Right, applejack. Reason why I like it so much and really love the whole history of this is, as I said, it's history of the United States of America, pretty much in a nutshell. It's almost 500 years old, and it was very popular. George Washington, President of the United States, one of the first ever presidents of the United States, I was one of the few people who loved this so much, he actually got the original recipe from the Laird family. So and allegedly, he is the only person outside of the Laird family who has the recipe. Also a guy called Abraham Lincoln, in case you've never heard of him. Yes, probably one of the only decent Republicans in existence, or ever in existence. He used to be a tavern owner. Yes, Abraham Lincoln was a bartender. That's probably why he was such a good president. He used to love applejack. He used to use it a lot as well. There's a guy called Roosevelt, another great president. Okay, and he used to switch out his rye whiskey or bourbon in his Manhattan for applejack. Okay, this is, you know, a lot of history with this product, and you know, you should always have one in your bar. If you drink it on its own, it's a little rough, but it's getting there, a bit like the United States of America. So now we're going to make the drink, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about the history as well, because there is a f***ing ton. Oh my God, it's a f***ing doozy. Whew. Well, there's a lot of the stories, and one of the ones I love about this one is a bit of a disturbing one. Around 1912, a guy called Jacob Rosenvig basically was a witness against a New York lieutenant of a anti-gambling unit. And unfortunately, the lieutenant was a little corrupt, and he shot a gambling boss called Rosenthal. And Jacob, who was also known as Balding Jack Rose, the story also goes he actually liked his applejack sour with grenadine, so hence the name Applejack came along. a little side note on that one. The lieutenant in general who got put to the electric chair, he was rather a big, heavy-set guy and tall and huge. Supposedly, allegedly, it took 5 to 7 minutes for him to die on the electric chair. Holy shitballs. But it's got other little names. There's also a bartender who in New Jersey who also claims to have created the drink as well. He put an advert out in the Police Gazette in around 1905 or 1906. Well, we'll see about that one. There's also Albert S. Crockett, who's from the Astoria Bar Book. He also claims that this is actually named after a rose called the Jacquemart rose, which is also in turn named after a French general. There's also some Jack Rose cigarillos, which after the court case ended up being called squealers. There's also the Laird family. Supposedly some guy from the Laird family in New Jersey created the drink as well at his bar. Well, that's also been sort of disputed as well. Now, my favorite one is really simple. It's applejack is the ingredient, and it's rose colored. The Jack Rose. I mean, just, yeah, what, you know? So, here we go. We're gonna make the drink now. And I like to have a nice big measure of applejack. So put good 2 ounces in. Okay. Using a measure. See that? Using a measure. Cut up the limes. I like to do what's called a 50-50 or split base. Yes, there's a little technical term for you. All right, so I like to use both. So we're going to use ½ an ounce of fresh lemon. There we go. Put that in. We're going to use ½ an ounce of lime. Okay. There we go. Okay. Homemade grenadine. This is at a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to do just under the 3/4, just under. Okay. Then we're going to add some ice. So, put it over the top, fill it all the way up as much as you can with ice. Push down. And then shake like I always use a little tester beforehand, but here we go. Oh my God, that is good. Little strainer. Now, I don't fine strain my drinks. Well, not all of them anyway, and this one I don't because I've got a little drawbridge there. And I just pour it in. Look at that color. Really does look like a Jacquemart rose. And a little bit you have left over. Put that in the bottom. Then peel off fresh lemon. And here we go. Just over the top. That's it. And there we go. That is a Jack Rose cocktail. That is a lovely drink. Oh, me, that is good. Pop and get home safe. Thank you. It's a lovely drink.